In 1963, Rob Stanton, an aerospace engineer, and his wife, Beth Stanton, a housewife, move into a Pasadena mansion following the death of their young daughter. They also meet their Italian neighbors, Leo and Sheila Mosconi. Beth invites them over for coffee, appearing to be a dutiful wife. Leo thinks Rob's face looks familiar, while Sheila notices that Rob treats his wife like a maid, tapping on his cup for Beth to pour more coffee instead of asking her directly. Soon after, Beth encounters Sheila again at the supermarket. But the interaction does not go well this time. Beth overhears Sheila revealing to another woman that Leo witnessed Rob kissing a waitress. Beth, in denial, rushes out of the supermarket, feeling guilty. Sheila visits Beth to talk, but Beth refuses to believe her husband's infidelity. That night, Rob calls Beth to inform her that he won't be home for dinner because of work. Beth acts like it's no problem but secretly goes to the diner near Rob's workplace, where she sees him kiss the waitress firsthand. The next day, she admits her husband's infidelity to Sheila. Sheila advises her to confront the waitress, and she does. The girl's name is April, and she turns out to be a sweetheart. Beth breaks down in front of her and, instead of being hostile, befriends April. Though she introduces herself as Sheila, April admits to Beth that she's in a relationship with a married man, still unaware that he is Beth's husband. After hearing from April that the affair is the result of Rob becoming bored with his wife, Beth tries to make herself more appealing by dressing up. However, when Rob comes home, he barely notices her efforts and doesn't even look at her properly. Desperate, Beth even strips naked while continuing to eat at the table with Rob. However, things become awkward when his boss arrives at the front door and sees her. Sheila helps Beth and advises her to try spicing things up in the bedroom. However, her attempt ends in disaster when she accidentally injures Rob in the bathroom. While waiting to be treated at the hospital, Rob acknowledges that he has been growing distant from Beth and feels guilty. Their conversation is interrupted when the doctor asks to speak with him privately. After receiving treatment for his injury, Rob leaves the mansion for a dinner with business partners despite Beth attempts to make him stay, knowing all too well that he is actually meeting April. Beth visits April and gives her her number. Later, she tells Sheila she plans to befriend April to stop her from seeing Rob. When Beth discovers that Rob plans to meet April at a nightclub to celebrate finishing a project, she goes to his office and takes the project files. This forces Rob to stay behind and redo his work, causing him to cancel his plans with April. With Rob unavailable, April invites Beth to join her instead. During their night out, April confides in Beth that she isn't looking for a serious relationship with Rob and has no interest in marriage, as she is focused on her dream of becoming a singer. Beth increasingly enjoys her friendship with April. They spend time roller skating before going to April's home. April shows Beth some marijuana-laced brownies, and although Beth hesitates at first, she gives in when April mentions that Rob uses them too. She explains that Rob has been using marijuana to add excitement to his life. After a while, Beth suddenly remembers she was supposed to attend a dinner party at Rob's boss's house and now has to go while still high. She rushes back and barely makes it in time. Under the influence, Beth acts a little off but unexpectedly charms the hosts and guests. Rob, feeling nervous that she might cause a scene, warns her, but Beth responds by saying, "I know what you've been doing." Assuming she is talking about the marijuana, Rob asks how she found out, unaware that she is actually referring to his affair. When Beth remains silent, Rob starts reflecting on how he has lost his sense of enjoyment in life. Later, they go roller skating in their neighborhood, and Rob begins to reconnect with Beth. April auditions to sing at a local bar and lands the gig, which genuinely makes Beth happy. April invites Beth and Rob to watch her perform, but Beth panics and makes an excuse that she can't attend. Though she wishes April the best and expects Rob to be there, to her surprise, Rob surprises Beth with 2 tickets to the World Series and declines April's invitation. Sheila tells Beth she should be happy that Rob chose her, but Beth feels differently. That night, Beth pretends to be sick but secretly goes to the bar to support April's performance. Afterward, they go back to April's apartment. Just as Beth is about to leave, she sees Rob arrive and quickly hides in the bathroom. April confesses to Rob that she is in love with him, but he angrily yells that he will never leave his wife before storming out. Beth emerges from the bathroom to comfort April, who sadly says Rob's wife is a lucky woman, something Beth strongly disagrees with. April wonders why a man would cheat on his wife but still choose to stay with her. Beth suggests it's likely because the wife did something that hurt him deeply. The next morning, Rob tells Beth that once he finishes his work project, he will spend more time at home with her. Beth appreciates this and suggests they throw a housewarming party to celebrate finally unpacking. She goes around the neighborhood inviting all the neighbors, including Mary and Ralph Lasson. As Beth approaches, Ralph is aggressively yelling at Mary but quickly stops when he notices her presence. Beth later tells April about the Vlassons and strongly suspects that Ralph is abusing Mary. April opens up about her childhood, revealing that she witnessed her mother being abused while their relatives turned a blind eye. On the day of the party, when the Vlassons arrive, Beth notices a large bruise on Mary's wrist, confirming her suspicions about Ralph's abuse. Later, as Mary and Rob dance, a jealous Ralph pulls Mary into the study and starts yelling at her. Rob attempts to intervene, but Ralph hints that he knows about Rob's infidelity, making Rob hesitate, seeing her husband back off. Beth steps in herself. Ralph storms out angrily, forcing Mary to follow him. This leads to an argument between Beth and Rob, with Beth furious at him for doing nothing to stop Ralph. In response, Rob cruelly yells that Ralph may not be a perfect husband, but Beth wasn't a good mother either, and that outsiders have no right to interfere in a marriage. Devastated, Beth later discovers that Sheila overheard their fight. She finally admits that she was the reason their daughter died. The next day, Beth visits April, who seems irritable. After kicking out her nosy neighbor, April reveals that Rob dumped her. Back home, Beth celebrates with Sheila but insists she still wants to be friends with April. Suddenly, April shows up at Beth's house. Panicking, Beth hides and asks Sheila to pretend to be her. Sheila reluctantly agrees and answers the door. April asks to see Rob, claiming he left his coat at the diner, but Sheila manages to send her away. Later, Beth visits April and urges her to move on, only to discover April is pregnant with Rob's child. Sheila advises Beth to confront Rob and force him to choose. At dinner, Beth struggles to hold back tears, ready to reveal the truth. But when Rob asks if she's sick, she gets an idea. She lies and tells him she has cancer. Beth is convinced that Rob would choose her if he knew she was sick. The next day, she confesses her lie to Sheila, who panics at Beth's continued deception. Despite her frustration, Sheila still takes Beth to visit her nephew, Enzo, an oncologist, to help her choose a fake illness. They settle on epithelioid hemangioendothelioma, and Beth later tells Rob she has 6 months to live. Devastated, Rob breaks down in tears and swears to stay by her side until the end. Beth urges April to leave town and start fresh, but April resists the idea and instead tricks Beth into driving her to an illegal abortion clinic. Fearing for April's safety, Beth opens up about her late daughter, Emily, and admits April reminds her of her. April gets emotional but insists she's too poor to raise the baby alone. Beth assures her she will find a way to support her financially and help raise the child. Moved by Beth's offer, April decides against the abortion. Later, Beth shares her plan with Sheila, believing raising April's baby would make everyone happy. Horrified, Sheila scolds Beth and cuts ties with her. Meanwhile, April storms into Rob's office and reveals her pregnancy. To her shock, Rob proposes, promising his marriage will be over in 6 months. When April tells Beth the news, Beth faints in the middle of the street. Beth drives April to her doctor's appointment and subtly tries to plant doubts about Rob in her mind. At the clinic, Beth spots Mary, who is visibly injured. Concerned, she later visits Mary's house and learns that Ralph beat her for supposedly trying to seduce another man. When Beth asks why she stays, Mary turns the question back on her, pointing out that she knows Rob has been unfaithful. Mary then reveals that Ralph owns a gun and has threatened to kill her if she leaves. A flashback shows Beth and Rob when their daughter Emily was still alive. One day, while playing in the backyard, Emily ran out into the street and was hit by a car. Rob blamed Beth for leaving the gate open, leading to the accident. In the present, April tells Rob that she wants to continue her singing career after giving birth, but he is unsupportive. He casually mentions that Beth once dreamed of becoming a concert pianist but gave it up to be a stay-at-home wife. This surprises April, as her friend Sheila also had the same dream. After speaking with Mary, Beth decides to leave Rob and goes to his office to say goodbye. However, he isn't there. His secretary, Claire, reveals that Rob has been cheating on Beth for years, with multiple women, including Claire herself. Claire then confesses that she was responsible for Emily's death. She had secretly visited Rob at their home. But when Beth and Emily returned early, she fled through the backyard and left the gate open, allowing Emily to wander into the street. Rob knew the truth but hid it, using Emily's death to manipulate Beth with guilt. Realizing everything, Beth changes her mind about leaving Rob and forgives Claire on the condition that their conversation remains a secret. On her way home, she buys a gun. Bethan tells Rob she bought a gun and will keep it loaded in the kitchen due to recent break-ins. Secretly, she teams up with Mary to make their husbands turn on each other. Mary hides her belongings and leaves a note for Ralph, claiming she is having an affair with Rob and is leaving him. Meanwhile, April unexpectedly arrives at Bethan's house, having learned the truth about her identity from the real Sheila. Bethan gets Rob drunk and presses him about Emily's death, but he denies any responsibility, pushing her to move forward with the plan. At home, Ralph finds Mary's note and, furious, grabs his gun. Bethan expects him to arrive soon, but instead, April shows up to confront her about her lies. As Rob is still reeling from the revelation that his wife befriended his mistress, Ralph bursts in with a gun and confronts Rob. A fight breaks out between the two men. In the chaos, Bethan secretly removes the bullets from her gun before tossing it to Rob, ensuring that Ralph is the one to shoot and kill him. A decade later, Beth hands over the house keys to the new owner, Simone, as she prepares to move to New York. She reveals that Ralph was executed for Rob's murder and that April has become a singer. Beth has helped raise April's daughter, Elsie, whom she considers her own. The three of them move to New York together so April can pursue a career on Broadway.